Hello and welcome to the Music Survival Guide, the independent musician's guide on how to survive in the music industry. My name's Phil, a mixing and mastering engineer. I hope you're doing marvellously well out there in podcast land. It is mid-June as I record, and as you hear this, it is early to mid-July. Can't 100% remember when it's going to go out. And life is good, you know. Got a bit of a tickly throat, a bit of a cold, but that's what happens when you have children. It's just the way it goes. Any parents listening, you'll fully understand that anything they get gets passed on to you, and that's just the way of things. Anyway, this week, I wanted to talk about finding the right engineer, be that a recording engineer, mix engineer, mastering engineer, or a producer, which isn't quite an engineer, but you know, those kinds of roles. How do you find the right person? What criteria is there for a good fit? Because that is a really, really vital question, and it's something that I ask myself most days. Is, you know, if put myself in the shoes of a band. If the band looked at me, would I look like a good fit? Yes or no? Really brutal question. Sometimes I don't like the answer, but there we are. And I think it's a really important thing to think through to help you find the right person or the right people to work with. I think the way to view it is, who is in your team? Who in your team do you trust for recording, for mixing, for mastering, whatever it may be? And it may be for some of those roles, or if you really don't have a budget for a lot of those roles, it's someone in the band. Now, I would highly, highly, highly recommend getting external people involved in your music creation process. You know, I've got episodes about that, and I would really, really strongly recommend it. However, you know, for some people, budget is a real consideration. At least for recording, you're going to be doing a lot of it yourself. And that is who is in your team doing the recording. It is ex-band member, ex-band members. And that's a really helpful way to think about it. But I think if you're going to think about, right, who do I need, say, for a mixing engineer? Who's going to be the right person? Who's going to be the right fit? I think there's several bits of criteria that you need to think about in order to establish who is the right person for you. So I think number one is, does your musical approach line up with their musical approach? That's quite a nebulous thing to say, but if I was to give you kind of a firm example, do you like stuff that they have mixed? Do you like their past productions? Do you think they sound good? Do you think that would just kind of line up musically with what you're doing? Really, really important consideration, because, you know, if you are, I don't know, to give a quite an extreme example, if you're a modern kind of hard rock band and you go to a hip hop producer, they're going to get you a particular sound that might not be what you're looking for. No, it might be exactly what you're looking for, and you're looking for something really different, and that's cool. But you've got to bear in mind, if you want to get a kind of really solid, in this case, like modern rock mix, what is that person's approach? Do they like modern rock? You know, does the person you're wanting to or thinking about working with, do they like the genre that you work in? That's also a really important question. I think the second question, and this can be really underrated, is, to give a kind of very American phrase, are they a good hang? Do you get on with this person? Do you think that they're a dick? Yes or no? So be really blunt about it. Especially true for a recording engineer. Someone who you're going to spend time with in the same room. And you know what it's like when you're recording? Temperatures can flare. Tempers can flare. I can get that right. This is going to stay in the podcast. Tempers can flare, and people can get frustrated, and it can be very difficult. You're going to need to be in that room with that person for a very long time, so you're going to need to get on with them. But even then, for a mixing engineer, a mastering engineer, where maybe you're working remotely, do you get on? Do you communicate well together? If you don't, then maybe you're not a good fit for each other. That's kind of a really important question. I think that's one that people really underrate, is the kind of, do you gel? Do you gel with each other? Another criteria to really think about is, do you like their ideas? So a lot of producers, a lot of recording engineers and people like that, and mixing engineers have ideas, you know, have musical ideas. When they listen to a song, go, oh, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? That kind of thing. How receptive are you to that approach? Because that could really determine what kind of relationship you are looking for with this person, you know? If you're really receptive to ideas and you love it when a producer really just tears apart your song and helps you rebuild it in just a really awesome way, then there are certain producers going to be really, really good at that. And there are certain producers that are going to be really rubbish at that. And, you know, that you're just going to need to work out who those people are. And if you get on with them, if you like their musical approach, that kind of thing. A third consideration, and it really does have to be a consideration, is price. Do you have the money for what they are offering? Now, you've got to think really rationally about what that person is offering. Say if you're hiring a mixing engineer, you're not just getting someone who's going to, hopefully, you're not just getting someone who's going to go, here you are, at the end of the process, here's your final track, off you pop. I don't think anyone would say it like that, but off you go. You're paying for someone who's bringing their skills, their expertise, their experience to your music to help make it the best that they think it can possibly be. And then after that, they're going to engage with you, certainly the way I work, they're going to engage with you on a revisions process, on a process of refining that song to make sure it is exactly what you are looking for as a band. And they're going to help you have the right kind of file formats at the end of it to make sure that you can upload your music to the right places and it can sound its optimum in each place that you send your music, whether that's CDs, I know some people still do them, or even vinyl, or just streaming, or YouTube, various kind of places that you put music. Make sure it's kind of optimized for those places. There's all sorts of things that you can bear. Are they going to do some reamping for you? Are they going to do some weird and wonderful effects that maybe take some time to get right? That's all the kind of things that it really does have to come into your thinking, I think, when it comes to a price. It is not a simple case of how much do you charge and, what could you do for my music? It's not just that. Do you get on with them? Do you gel with them musically? Do you like the kind of ideas that they bring to the table, that kind of thing? And what kind of additional things are they offering around that? Now, in terms of how you find these people, that's a bit more of a difficult question. I think social media nowadays is a really good avenue for finding all sorts of people like this. And I think if you're really not sure where to go, talk to your bandmates, talk to your friends in other bands, and find out who they've worked with and what they think about that person's services. It's all well and good for someone to say, oh yes, we went and recorded with this person, but they were horrible and it was a really terrible experience and we'll never go again. Make sure you get that bit. You don't want to go somewhere on someone's half-hearted recommendation, let's say, only to be kind of burned in the same way. That's not good for you. Make sure you get positive recommendations and see where you go. And of course, in the world of social media, when you find this person, you don't just have to book them straight away. You can talk to them. You can have a conversation about your musical approach and their style and what they can bring to the table and all sorts of things like that. It's a really good opportunity before any sort of commitment, any description is made, to just work out if you're a good fit for each other. And then if you're not, you're not wasted your time. That's really important. When you find someone right for you, you can go back again and again and again. Equally, if you want to move on from them and try something else, try a different approach, you can. But I think you've got to go in as eyes wide open as you can to what that person is going to offer, what they're like, what their musical style is like, and then you're off to a really positive, hopefully, a really positive start with them. So that's kind of all my thoughts really on finding a producer, mixing engineer, mastering engineer, recording engineer, whatever it may be. So all I've got to say is thank you for listening to another episode of the Music Survival Guide. If you liked it, please rate and review the podcast wherever you listen. It all helps the algorithm, of course. And please also share it with any friends and bandmates if you thought it was useful. If you want to have a chat about finding a mixing engineer, a producer, whatever it may be. And equally, if you're thinking about recording or mixing and you want to talk about it, feel free to reach out to me via the links in the podcast description below, in the kind of description box of your podcast player of choice. And we can have a conversation about that. And I will see you next time.